Guy and Leicester City are soon going to be relegated to League One. I just find this whole Leicester City mess all just so sad. Those players this season have been nothing short of a disgrace. From February until April, they picked up 1 point from possible 27. They also began the season with 1 point from possible 21. The recruitment over the last few years has been a complete and utter joke. Why haven't this club chosen to sign players who are proven in the Premier League? Why does it always have to be obscure footballers from abroad? Over the last 2 years, there is no reason why Leicester couldn't have signed the likes of Tyrone Mings, Joe Willock, Morgan Gibbs-White, Danny Ings, solid mid-table players who'd have kept this club in the league. 30 points. That's all they have after 36 games. Lads, we have only ever seen one former Premier League champion relegated before, and that was Blackburn Rovers in 2012. I mean, sure, it was sad, even a little bit pathetic to see a former title winner sink into the championship. But I mean, to be fair, it was 17 years after they'd won the league. But Leicester, this is just seven small years after being top of the pile, they're getting relegated. It was only 6 years ago we were all watching Leicester City compete in the Champions League. What is this? Leicester finished 8th last season. I mean, when teams get relegated, there's usually some sort of clue from the previous season, but no. They ended last season by crushing Norwich 3-0, battering Watford 5-1, sneaking a 1-1 draw at Chelsea before destroying Southampton 4-1. Not a single person connected to the Leicester City Football Club should have been scared of relegation after that. Going from 8th to relegation. The last time there was such a drop-off in the Premier League, you would have to go all the way back to 2007. Yeah, Reading finished 8th that season, were relegated the following year. But I mean, that was 16 years ago. West Ham went from 7th to 18th inside a year. That was 2003, and come on, they went down with 42 points. Yeah, in modern day football, that's just 1 point less than Chelsea. Right now, the Leicester City fan base want top Shriven and Aberpa to sell the club, which I find so incredibly depressing. This man's father passed away in that horrible helicopter crash in 2018, which was truly a terrible moment in English football. It was awful. But the fact that the son then took charge and went on to lead Leicester to an FA Cup win in 2021, that was amazing. Lads, don't forget, it was only last season that Leicester City won the Community Shield. I don't think anyone really appreciates the work that Brendan Rodgers did. Winning the Premier League title in 2016 was mental. That was some sort of Star Trek-esque reality where that somehow happened. But make no mistake about it, Claudio Ranieri is a managerial failure. The man's had 23 management jobs in his life, most of which ended in failure. The guy's been sacked so many times, he's probably entitled to a free milkshake. When he took the Leicester job in 2015, he had just been binned off by Greece for losing to the Faroe Islands, a country with a population no bigger than St. James's Park. I mean, I'm sure their star centre back probably had to bring in sick to his job wiping bathrooms at Pizza Hut. All Ranieri had to do that season was just keep out of the Leicester City players' way. That wasn't tactical brilliance. All he did was just promise them pizza for clean sheets, which was just a token gesture to the media. I mean, do you not think millionaires like Danny Simpson aren't already able to order pizza on their phone? I mean, this wasn't like an under-11s team where they all get driven to McDonald's after a win. Whoever Leicester City appointed that summer were just riding the tidal wave of their great escape that was built by Nigel Pearson. All that was momentum. Ranieri won the lottery when he got that gig, but he wasn't first choice. Sam Allardyce turned down Leicester that summer. So let me get this straight. In the space of a year, Allardyce ruined his dream England job and also cost himself the chance to become a Premier League champion. When sacked by England after just one game, he could have just gone back to managing Leicester in the Champions League. Or if he hadn't been so stupid, that man could literally have gone from winning the Premier League with Leicester to then leading England out at Euro 2020 and the Qatar World Cup. Oh, can you imagine that man's ego if he had a Premier League winner's medal in his pocket? The guy would be strutting into KFC as if he was the king of Spain. I mean, his ego would be so large, he'd probably instantly divorce his wife and download Tinder on his phone. I mean, Martin O'Neill was Ireland manager at the time, yes, but I remember that summer. The FAI were willing to let him return to Leicester, and we would instead have had Roy Keane in charge. Yeah, give Keane full control of that Irish dressing room. I think we'd have needed extra cleaners to scrape John Walter's blood off the walls. The club were also sniffing around Neil Lennon and David Moyes. Ranieri has admitted that summer he was already rejected by 2 other Premier League clubs, and that he was so desperate to return to England that he would have accepted a job in the Championship. Leicester City winning that title was an utter Disney fairy tale which made no sense at all. So what Rodgers did was incredible. He finished 5th twice. He nearly got Leicester City back into the Champions League. During the 1920 season, he had the Foxes winning 8 Premier League games in a row, scoring 25 and conceding 3. I mean, by Christmas, Jamie Vardy had scored 18 Premier League goals. That is mental. Leicester City were second on New Year's Day. If it wasn't for that absolute freak of a Liverpool team, then I'm sorry, Brendan Rodgers would have had little old Leicester City top of the Premier League halfway through the season. They were 14 points clear of 5th. Sure, they bottled top 4 in the end, but the next season, they didn't just fall away. No, they were winning 5-2 at the Etihad to sit top of the league. Yeah. Brendan Rodgers absolutely annihilated Pep Guardiola. Lads, they spent 36 weeks of that season in the top 4. In Rodgers' first 2 full seasons in charge of Leicester, they spent a combined 69 weeks in the Premier League top 4. 13 of those weeks were in the top 2. Do you not realize how absolutely mental that is? I don't care that they wound up finishing 5th both times. That was nearly 70 match of the days where Gary Lineker's team were in the Champions League places. This wasn't like a 2016 miracle where the entire club were sprayed with Tinkerbell's piss. That was actual genius management. Lads, since Leicester City were promoted in 2015, Leicester City have been in the top 4 for a combined 106 game weeks. That really is all sorts of mental. But Rodgers was not backed. This is a club who sold Harry Maguire and then Wesley Fofana for a combined £150 million. They cashed in Ben Chilwell for 50 million quid, and what? He's just given burnt out bags of bird poo like Yannick Vestergaard, Ryan Bertrand, and unproven flops like Patson Daka and Boubacar Samar. I remember predicting that Daka would be a flop when he came from Red Bull Salzburg, and I was told that I had seaweed between the ears. Sorry, he might be the king of Zambia, but I mean, in the Premier League, he's got all the authority of a blind circus clown. The players they bought, no research. I mean, they bought Harry Souttar in January from Stoke purely because he looks like Harry Maguire. I mean, it's creepy. Yes, he's a centre half, has a square head, and his name is Harry. This Australian bloke is basically just Home and Away's answer to Maguire. But he's terrible! And lads, David Luiz was always looked upon as a circus clown joke. People forget that half the time. The man was actually verging on world class in the back 3. But Wout Faes, he is what everybody thought David Luiz was. Someone allergic to the barbers, yes, but also as the defensive brain of an onion. How is he in the Belgium squad? The bloke is about as solid as my grandmother's poo. And all she does all day is just drink milk up her nose. I think sacking Rodgers was wrong. I'm sorry, but because Leicester City finished 1st in 2016, people like to turn their nose about finishing 5th twice and try to pick holes in what was wrong with it.
Oh, he didn't finish 4th! What a failure!
Lads, this was Leicester City. The likes of Riyad Mahrez and N'Golo Kante were long gone. He had to build his team around a playmaker who he bought from Norwich. Sacking Rodgers for Dean Smith makes no logical sense in the world. Rodgers is one of the greatest managers of the Premier League era who've never actually won the Premier League. Smith is just an irrelevant chunk of chewing gum on the sole of the Premier League's foot. But I suppose he was recently sacked by Norwich. His attempts to keep them in the league last year were about as feeble as a Bill Cosby excuse. Come on, 12 defeats in the last 15 games. His last 3 Premier League matches at Carrow Road, he lost 3-0, 4-0 and 5-0. It was getting steadily worse. Asking Smith to keep you in the Premier League is a bit like asking the town drunk to baptize your child. Yeah, he's probably gonna puke vodka flavored cereal onto his face. Rafa Benitez was free. He was available. Leicester just needed a manager who could fix their defense. That's what he does. I mean, back when Leicester won the league, yeah, they were a bit distracted at the time, but Newcastle hired Benitez in 2016, and yes, they went down. But I'm sorry, that was not on him. Before Rafa joined, they were conceding goals for fun. They'd already lost 5-1 twice. But lads, under Benitez, Newcastle were unbeaten in their final 6 games. They only conceded 4 goals and scored 12. That was not relegation form. That was European form. If Leicester had appointed Benitez, he would have kept you up. He certainly wouldn't be bringing you to Fulham to watch you concede 5. I think a perfectionist like him would sooner scratch out his eyes with a fork. Honestly, you had the chance to hire a Champions League winning ex-Real Madrid boss, and you choose to hire the former manager of Walsall. You only have yourself to blame. And as for the academy, what have Leicester actually produced lately? In the recent years, it's been about as prolific as a constipated snail. Sure, Ben Chilwell has gone on to win the Champions League, yes, but after him, what? Are the Leicester City kids supposed to be inspired by Kiernan Dewsbury Hall? I mean, who names their child Kiernan? Is he the new poster boy for that academy? Imagine those starry-eyed children enviously looking around other top academies in the country and then being told to be inspired by Hamza Chudori or Harvey Barnes. It reminds me of my school days. I mean, sure, the other schools in the city, on their Alumni Hall of Fame, they'd have ex-Irish rugby stars, former presidents. That bloke who played Dumbledore. But my school, our Hall of Fame, we just had a picture of a retired dentist. Oh yeah, that's really gonna inspire me to study harder at maths so I can grow up to tell teenagers they need braces. Lads, right now, the head of scouting and recruitment is Martin Glover. And to sum up just how careless this whole thing is, his LinkedIn page says that he still works for Southampton. Yeah, he left them in September. To be fair, I mean, the bloke has been around the Premier League for years. He was head of scouting and recruitment at Southampton, Everton, Sunderland, Leeds, West Ham and Blackburn Rovers. Yeah, he left Blackburn, Sunderland and Southampton just months before they were relegated. That would prove to me that he was piping the first 11 with overpriced, overrated sludge. Honestly, it's not a good look, Martin. It's a bit like people realizing that your last 3 wives died just months after you broke up. Yeah, I would imagine Netflix detectives would soon determine that you've been slipping poison into their food. I mean, John Rudkin is the current director of football, and I don't want to pretend that he's just some incompetent oaf with less intelligence than a prematurely born bumblebee, because he is Leicester City through and through. He's been working for the club since he became a youth coach in 1998. The guy's been around the club for nearly 30 years. He was even caretaker manager once. The man's done so many jobs at the club, he was probably once a step-in lunch lady for the day. Serving up cheese hamburgers for Jesse Lingard and Harry Kane. But something has gone horribly wrong. Leicester City are a mess, and right now, I think they're on for back-to-back relegations. This is a team on course for League One. They've got 7 players out of contract next month. Yuri Tielemans, Daniel Amartey, Kakra Soyuncu, Nampalys Mendy, Johnny Evans, Ryan Bertrand and Loney Tete. They're all off out the door, and I think it's pretty obvious that both James Maddison and Harvey Barnes will leave to rescue their careers. But lads, who are they going to be able to sell for big money? Maddison has just 12 months left in his deal. So this summer, I reckon he'll be sold for about 30 million quid. Kalichi, Iheanacho, Wilfred and Didi are also into the final years of their contracts. And lads, the situation with Jamie Vardy is an absolute mess. Last summer, Leicester City wanted to get Kasper Schmeichel off the wage bill and sold him for just £1 million to Nice. It made no sense. I know he was on upwards of £150,000 a week, which is a lot of money for a nearly 40-year-old man. But which would you rather? £1 million in your pocket or a Premier League winning goalie? If you wanted to sell him, fine. But why didn't you just go out and sign Martin Dubravka last summer at the very least? Or Dean Henderson was available. Because both Danny Ward and Daniel Iverson have the reflexes of snotty popcorn. Vardy is on wages of £140,000 a week. I think the Leicester City board would sooner shove Maltesers up their nose than continue to pay that sort of wage in the Championship. So I'm sorry, Rebecca, but I think you might need to start selling your Gucci purses on the internet, because the family breadwinner is probably going to be looking for a new job. But this is where things get nasty. Vardy has a year left in his deal. Why would he want to leave? That is obscene money for a nearly 37-year-old centre forward with just 3 Premier League goals all year. So I reckon the Leicester City board might spend this summer begging him to leave, and I think he's actually going to refuse to leave. Again, it's the opposite of 2016 when they were begging him not to move to Arsenal. This whole thing is a mess. Sure, Smith will be sacked in the summer, but then what? If I was Leicester, I would bring in Patrick Vieira and give him the funds to build an exciting, free-flowing, hungry Leicester team in the Championship. Try and do what Burnley did. That is the answer. But they won't. I know they won't. It'll be some ugly Championship mulch sandwich like Scott Parker. He won't be able to garner any motivation amongst the squad. They'll be in a relegation battle in February, and the Leicester board will panic and hire someone like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I'm sorry, but to me, I would not be surprised if Leicester City are in League One in a year's time. I mean, they got relegated to the league in 2008 when my mate Ian was at the wheel. I just think when a former Premier League champion gets relegated, it becomes an ugly, toxic mess. I mean, Blackburn were relegated to League One, so why won't it be Leicester too? To me, watching the Disney fairy tale end like this, with a bunch of players who clearly don't care for the club, it's all just pathetic. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Are Leicester gonna... No, they're not. No, they're not. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.